the truth about oil or petroleum. Fact, over 1.5 trillion barrels of oil equivalent have been produced since Edwin Drake drilled the world's first oil well in 1859. The world will need that same amount to meet demand in the next 20 to 25 years alone. And if you're thinking that it's all for your gas tank, you're only half right. It's found in virtually every product that you buy, own, and use, be it your shoes, your McDonald's coffee cup, or the computer on which you're reading these very words. I'm not just talking about transportation from the factory to the stores where goods like these are purchased and consumed. We're talking about the petroleum used in making the product itself, and more importantly, the petroleum needed for the technological breakthroughs that made these products a possibility. To construct the average vehicle, approximately 27 to 42 barrels of oil, or 1,100 to 1,700 gallons will be consumed. Making the average desktop computer requires more than 10 times its weight in fossil fuels. Every calorie of food eaten in the U.S. requires roughly 10 calories of fossil fuels. Simply, we can't have computers, silicone, wire coverings, outlets, artificial limbs, electron microscopes, plastics without what? Oil. Whether you want to believe it or not, oil does make the world go round. If you want to see how advanced a civilization can be without the use of petroleum, all you have to do is head to what is called Amish country, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. These people, whose everyday lives have become sadly a tourist attraction, are living in suspended animation at the peak of their own society before petroleum came into the mix. No electricity, no flashlights, no plastic, no TV, no cars, no telephones, no Starbucks, no sneakers, no health clubs, no computers, no supermarkets, no video games, no cell phones, to the which the modern world as a whole says, no thanks. Today, talk of peak oil is dismissed by big oil companies as pure nonsense, a rumor spread by those who would take us back to the Dark Ages. But that couldn't be farther from the total truth. Far from being a rumor, this problem has even the King Kong of oil companies in a thinly disguised frenzy to find its next couple of million barrels. As you'll see, this problem has been piling up, ignored for more than 30 years. Now the dominoes are all lined up, and the first one is about to tip. The crippling power of oil. People who think that the oil crisis of 1973 was strictly an embargo have another thing or think coming. It was an omen, and the first sign of our vulnerability to the ever-dwindling supply of oil in the world, which is dwindling faster and faster every day. That lesson nearly drove us mad. Blocking just 5% of our imported oil supply could be or was enough to nearly quadruple the price overnight. It was a lesson we should never have forgotten. It wasn't the first time or the last that oil, not weapons, proved to be the true war machine. In World Wars I and II, sabotaging the German supply lines was quite possibly the most crucial element to thwarting Germany's military. It's like we have mentioned before, since 1859 we have consumed 1.5 trillion barrels of oil, and with our forecasted rate of consumption, conservatively, it will take approximately only 20 years more to consume another 1.5 trillion barrels of oil. In the past 2 years alone, we've consumed over 60 billion barrels of oil, and that rate's about to take off. With an exponential rise in consumption, we are faced with a very, very dire problem. The number of giant oil fields has declined dramatically since the 1960s. The large reserves and production capability of these fields are essential to increased world oil production. The combined output of smaller oil fields serves at best to offset declines in the older giants. Unfortunately, since 1990, there have been few giants discovered in the world, a total of 35, and none of these has production capability above 1 million barrels per day. The world's largest oil field in Saudi Arabia was discovered in 1948 and currently produces approximately 4.5 million barrels per day, with an estimated 60 to 70 billion barrels and remaining reserves at best. It could continue producing for several decades, but nothing of its size has been discovered since. The importance of the giant oil fields and other older giant fields to global oil production cannot be overstated. 20 years ago, 15 fields had the capacity to produce more than 1 million barrels per day. Today, only 4 fields can produce that much. But we're only getting started. You see, it gets worse, much, much worse. The last domino is about to fall. There's an issue that has the world's finest geologists, physicists, and investment bankers as nervous as an agoraphobic in Central Park. These rational and conservative professionals are absolutely terrified by the fact that there soon won't be enough oil to keep the world's economies running. It won't be many more years now. And the fear is spreading faster than the panic after an Orson Welles broadcast. The reason for their terror starts with an indisputable fact. Oil production follows a bell curve, but demand is always increasing. As much as some might dream or wish, oil is not renewable. Every year, following the peak of oil production, believed to have happened already by highly respected researchers, geologists, and investment bankers like Matthew Simmons, the world's output will go into steady decline very rapidly, and the rate of decline is staggering, as much as 10% a year. And this isn't just a one-field observation. It is true for every oil-producing country and the whole world as a whole. Assuming, for simplicity's sake, that the world reached its peak oil production back in 2005, peak oil year, that would mean that by 2025, there would be as much oil produced as there was in 1985. That's fine. There was a lot of oil for the world in 1985, only there's a very slight hitch. There's a huge growing world demand for oil and petroleum products. And this is not going to last. The oil is running out. It's starting to. Price increases, more price increases to come. America, United States of America, is founded on cheap oil. And now, the dollar is going ever lower. Yes, the stock market and the economy, yes, it doesn't look good. The peak oil years, the top of the graph has already been reached, and we're on the downward spiral now. The downward part of the graph, period. So, yes,